The rain began to fall, but it was not just any storm. It was the beginning of something grand and terrifying. Imagine yourself in a world where corruption and violence dominate, and a man stands out amid the chaos. He hears a voice, a call that echoes through the centuries, asking him to build an ark. But what does this story of Noah really teach us about today's world? As the clouds gathered, many people laughed, ignoring the warning. Have you ever stopped to think about how many times we ignore signs around us? The ark was not just a boat. It was a symbol of hope, of resilience. What does this mean for us now, in uncertain times? Noah, with his unwavering faith, invites us to reflect on choices and consequences. And you? Are you prepared to face the storms of life? What are we doing to protect ourselves from the uncertainties that surround us? The story of Noah is an echo from the past, but its lessons are more relevant than ever. Let's explore together this legacy that transcends generations and teaches us how to navigate through crises. The cultural and religious context of the story of Noah. When I think of the story of Noah, I cannot help but marvel at how this narrative has traversed centuries and infiltrated various religious traditions. Starting with Judaism, where Noah is seen as a righteous man in a corrupt world, the narrative is laden with meanings that go far beyond the simple construction of an ark. It is interesting to note that the story also appears in Christianity, where it is often interpreted as a symbol of salvation through faith. This makes me reflect on how old stories can adapt and resonate in different cultures and beliefs. But the story of Noah does not stop there. In other cultures, we also find accounts that echo the theme of the flood. The Babylonians, for example, have their own version with the Epic of Gilgamesh, where a hero is instructed to build a vessel to survive a great flood. These parallels make me think about the universality of the flood myth and how it reflects fears and hopes shared by humanity throughout history. The connection between religious traditions is a reminder that, despite differences, there is a common thread that unites us in our search for meaning. Furthermore, the narrative of Noah is a window into understanding the beliefs and values of a time when the relationship between the human and the divine was seen in a very direct way. The story speaks not only about a cataclysmic event, but also about the consequences of immorality and the need for a fresh start. This idea of a God who cares for creation and who, at the same time, demands responsibility from his followers is a message that resonates in many religions. It is fascinating to think about how this story has shaped morality and religious practices over the centuries. On the other hand, the cultural context of the time when the story was written is also crucial for understanding it. Ancient societies often lived in fear of natural disasters and sought ways to make sense of these events. The account of Noah, therefore, can be seen as a response to these anxieties, offering an explanation for suffering and a promise of renewal. This dynamic of narrative and reality continues to be relevant, especially in times of crisis, when we seek answers to the challenges we face. Finally, when reflecting on the cultural and religious context of the story of Noah, I realize that it is not just an account of the past, but an invitation to reflect on our own place in the world. In times of uncertainty and despair, the story of Noah reminds us of the importance of faith, morality, and above all, hope. This notion that even in the darkest situations, a new opportunity can arise is something we all can carry with us. Symbolism of the Ark. When I consider the symbolism of the Ark, I cannot help but think about how it represents a space of refuge and protection in times of crisis. Noah's Ark is not just a wooden structure. It symbolizes salvation amid chaos. In a world where nature seems uncontrollable, the idea of finding shelter in something greater offers us significant comfort. The Ark, therefore, becomes a symbol of hope, a reminder that even in the face of destruction, there is a safe place where we can take refuge. Moreover, this symbol of protection extends to the idea of community. Inside the ark, Noah and his family, along with the animals, represent the diversity of life that must be preserved. This makes me think about how, in times of crisis, we come together in search of a common purpose. The ark is a microcosm of the world, where different species coexist in a safe space, showing that collaboration and solidarity are essential for survival. This message is especially relevant today as we face global challenges that require collective action. The ark can also be seen as a symbol of resilience. Noah's ability to build and prepare for what was to come is a powerful lesson. In a broader sense, this encourages us to prepare for the challenges that life presents us. Building the ark requires planning, effort, and above all, faith. This idea of preparing for the unexpected is something we can apply in our daily lives, regardless of the circumstances. Furthermore, the ark is a symbol of renewal. After the flood, the ark becomes the place where life begins anew. This ability to rise again after the storm is a powerful metaphor for the difficulties we face. Often, in our lives, we encounter moments that make us feel like everything is lost. However, the story of the ark teaches us that even after the darkest moments, there is always the possibility of a new beginning. This message of hope is fundamental in times of crisis. Finally, when reflecting on the symbolism of the ark, I realize that it represents not only physical protection, but also spiritual protection. In a world full of uncertainties, finding a safe space for our beliefs and values is essential. Noah's Ark offers us this perspective. The certainty that, even in the face of adversity, we can find a place where our hopes and dreams can flourish. This idea of shelter, both physical and emotional, is something we all seek at some point in our lives. The flood as a metaphor. Thinking of the flood as a metaphor is a profound reflection on the human condition. The flood is not just a natural catastrophe, it represents the need for renewal and purification. In many ways, this deluge can be seen as a call to reflect on our actions and their consequences. When I look at the world around me, I realize that we are often immersed in behaviors that distance us from a more virtuous path. The flood, then, serves as a warning for us to reconsider our priorities and actions. The idea of purification is also intriguing. The flood, by eliminating what no longer serves, symbolizes the possibility of a fresh start. This makes me think about how, in our lives, we often need to navigate through periods of difficulty to emerge stronger and wiser. This metaphor of water, which cleanses and renews, is comforting, as it reminds us that transformation is possible and that after the storm, we can find the clarity and strength needed to move forward. Another reflection that comes to mind is about the responsibility we have regarding our actions. The flood is, ultimately, a response to a society that has strayed from its values. This raises questions about how we are shaping the world around us. Are we taking care of our environment? Are we being fair and ethical in our interactions? The flood reminds us that our choices have consequences, and if we are not careful, we may find ourselves in a cycle of destruction that can be hard to reverse. Additionally, the flood can be seen as a test of faith. Noah was called to believe in something that seemed impossible. He built the ark amid scorn and doubt. This makes me think of how many times we face situations where faith is the only thing that sustains us. The flood, in this sense, is a metaphor for the trials we all face. The story teaches us that even when everything seems lost, faith and resilience can guide us through difficulties. Finally, as I contemplate the flood as a metaphor, I realize that it offers us an opportunity for introspection. It is an invitation to look inward and evaluate our lives. What do we need to leave behind so that we can move forward? What aspects of our lives need renewal? Thus, the flood is not just an event of the past, but a continuous invitation for us to seek purification and renewal in our own journeys. The promise of the rainbow. The rainbow is a natural phenomenon that has always fascinated me. When I look at it, I see not just a play of colors in the sky after the rain, I see a profound symbol of hope and renewal. In the biblical account of Noah, the rainbow appears as a sign of the covenant between God and humanity, a promise that the waters of the flood would never again devastate the earth. This idea of covenant resonates with many of us, especially in times of uncertainty. It's as if, by looking at the sky, we can be reminded that there is always a light after the storm. Furthermore, the rainbow invites us to reflect on the importance of reconciliation and peace in contemporary societies. Amid so many divisions and conflicts, the promise of a better future seems more necessary than ever. The rainbow symbolizes the diversity and beauty that can emerge when different elements come together harmoniously. This makes me think that just as the colors of the rainbow intertwine, we too need to learn to coexist with our differences, seeking mutual understanding. When we observe the rainbow, it's hard not to feel a connection to something greater. It reminds us that even after the most violent storms, we can still find beauty and hope. This vision can encourage us to work towards a more just and peaceful world. After all, if nature can show us that harmony is possible, why can't we apply this lesson in our lives and communities? We must strive to be the change we wish to see, promoting dialogues and initiatives that unite people rather than separate them. In practice, this can translate into concrete actions. We can engage in social projects, support movements that seek justice and equality, or simply act with empathy in our daily lives. Every small act of kindness and understanding is like a raindrop that, when joined with others, can form a rainbow. Thus, the promise of the rainbow is not just a reminder of the past. It is a call to action in the present and an impetus to build a harmonious future. In the end, the rainbow teaches us that hope is a powerful force. When we look at it, we are reminded that even in the worst adversities, there is always a promise of a new beginning. This message is especially relevant in a world full of challenges. Every time I see a rainbow, I feel it is an invitation to believe that together we can create a brighter tomorrow. Lessons of sustainability and environmental responsibility. The story of Noah is more than an ancient tale. It carries valuable lessons about the importance of sustainability and environmental responsibility. By building the ark, Noah not only saved his family and the animals, but also left us a message about the preservation of life. In times of climate crisis, this message becomes even more urgent. We need to understand that our relationship with the environment is not just a moral issue, but a matter of survival. When I think of climate change and the challenges we face, I remember the ark as a symbol of protection. Noah had the courage to act in the face of an impending catastrophe, teaching us that although the difficulties are great, inaction is not an option. Just like Noah, we too can take steps to protect our planet. This can mean adopting sustainable practices in our daily lives, such as recycling, reducing plastic consumption, and supporting renewable energy sources. Environmental responsibility is collective, and Noah's story reminds us that each of us has a role to play. Caring for nature should be a shared commitment among individuals, communities, and nations. If we all do our part, we can create a significant impact. This is not just a matter of ethics, but a pressing necessity. What we do today will shape the world we leave for future generations. The relationship between Noah's story and sustainability also makes us reflect on the interconnection of all forms of life. Noah saved diverse species, reminding us that each living being plays an essential role in the web of life. The loss of biodiversity is one of the greatest challenges we currently face. We need to understand that protecting the environment is a responsibility that affects us all, and that every action, no matter how small, can contribute to a healthier future. In summary, the lessons from Noah about sustainability and environmental responsibility are timeless. They challenge us to act, to reflect on our choices, and to commit to the protection of our planet. By doing so, we not only honor Noah's memory, but also ensure a viable future for generations to come. Every step towards sustainability is a step towards a more balanced and harmonious world, where everyone can thrive. Noah as a figure of resistance and faith. When I think of the figure of Noah, I picture a solitary man, surrounded by a world that did not understand his mission. He was not just a boat builder, he was in fact an icon of resistance. In a time when everyone around him mocked his beliefs and what he was trying to accomplish, Noah stood firm. This resistance makes me reflect on the situations where we too need to remain steadfast, even when the world seems to be against us. The faith he demonstrated in building the ark, even when the rain seemed like an absurd idea, is a powerful lesson about the importance of believing in our principles. Noah's faith was not blind, but based on a deep conviction. He heard the voice of God, and, instead of ignoring it like many did, he decided to act. This makes me think about how many times we set aside our convictions due to social pressure. Society often demands conformity, and being true to oneself can be an act of courage. Noah stood out not only for his faith, but also for his willingness to act on it. He teaches us that faith and action go hand in hand, and that even amidst adversity, it is possible to find the strength to move forward. It is clear that Noah's resistance was not an easy journey. He faced not only the disbelief of others, but also the loneliness and isolation that come with choosing a different path. This makes me think about how many people around us also fight alone, facing battles that are not visible to the world. Noah, a man who could have given up, chose to persist. His story reminds us that even when the journey seems arduous, perseverance and faith can guide us through the most intense storms. Reflecting on Noah's character, I realize that he was not just an example of individual resistance. He also represents the possibility of collective action. Building the ark was an effort that involved his family, and this makes me think about the importance of unity in times of crisis. When we come together around a common purpose, we can face challenges that would seem impossible alone. Noah and his family show us that faith, when shared, becomes even more powerful and capable of generating significant change. Finally, Noah's story invites us to reflect on how we deal with adversity in our own lives. If he could remain steadfast in his faith and resistance, why couldn't we do the same? In a world full of uncertainties, the figure of Noah shines as a beacon of hope, showing that even in the most difficult situations, perseverance and faith can lead us to a better future. His message is clear. We must be faithful to our convictions, act accordingly, and above all, remember that true resistance is one that relies on unity and solidarity. The flood as a metaphor. The flood in Noah's story is often interpreted as a catastrophic event, but what fascinates me is how it can also be seen as a powerful metaphor. It represents not only destruction, but also renewal. When everything seems lost, it is often the storm that brings the opportunity to start over. This leads me to think about moments in my own life when, after deep crises, I was able to find new beginnings. The flood, in this sense, teaches us that purification can be painful, but is often necessary for us to grow and evolve. Moreover, the flood makes us reflect on the consequences of human actions. The story shows us that although Noah was a righteous man, humanity had strayed from its values. This leads me to think about what we are doing with our world today. Are we, in a way, drowning in our own decisions? The flood can serve as a warning. Our choices have consequences, and the need for a collective awakening is more urgent than ever. The metaphor of the flood invites us to examine our practices and behaviors, and to ask ourselves, what do we need to drown in our lives to make room for something new and healthy? When I think about the idea of purification, I am intrigued by how the flood can also be seen as a process of cleansing. Often, we need to go through difficult experiences so that we can see life in a new light. This is especially true in times of crisis, when we are forced to re-evaluate our priorities and values. The flood, therefore, represents not only destruction, but a chance for renewal. It reminds us that after the storm, there will always be a rainbow, symbolizing hope and the possibility of a new beginning. On the other hand, the concept of renewal brings forth the idea of responsibility. What we learn from Noah's story and the flood is that we cannot simply wait for things to resolve themselves. We need to take action. Purification can be a painful process, but it is also an opportunity for us to become better. The flood teaches us that by facing the consequences of our actions, we have the chance to reinvent ourselves and create a more sustainable and just future. Finally, the metaphor of the flood becomes a call to action. In a world facing so many crises, from environmental to social, we need to find ways to clean what no longer serves us and seek renewal. Noah's flood shows us that even in the worst situations, there is an opportunity to start over. Therefore, may we draw inspiration from this story, not only to recognize the challenges we face, but also to embrace the possibility of transformation and hope that comes after the storm. The cultural and religious context of the story of Noah. Analyzing the account of Noah, I realize that it transcends the barriers of time and culture. The story is found not only in the Bible, but also in various religious traditions, including Judaism and Christianity. What fascinates me is how each culture brings its own nuances and interpretations to this narrative. This makes me think about the universality of the lessons that the story of Noah offers. It resonates in different contexts, showing that, regardless of belief, the themes of faith, obedience, and renewal are fundamental to the human experience. In addition to the Western religious contexts, there are versions of the flood myth in cultures such as the Babylonian, with the story of Gilgamesh. This diversity of narratives reveals an interesting aspect. The struggle against destruction and the quest for salvation are themes that touch the essence of humanity. This leads me to reflect on how, even in different times and places, the need for hope and the search for redemption remain. The figure of Noah thus becomes a symbol of resistance that crosses cultural and temporal boundaries. This cultural analysis also makes me think about how the story of Noah can be seen as a warning. In many traditions, the narrative serves as a reminder of the consequences of human actions. When we observe current issues, such as climate change and social crises, Noah's message becomes even more relevant. The cultural context in which the story is told does not diminish its importance. Rather, it amplifies the urgency of its lessons. We need to heed these echoes from the past if we wish to avoid repeating the same mistakes. Moreover, Noah's presence in different religious traditions indicates that the story is much more than a simple narrative. It is an essential element of the collective consciousness. This leads me to think about how much stories shape our identities and values. Noah, as a central figure, teaches us about the importance of maintaining faith in difficult times, something that is essential in all cultures. This universality serves as a reminder that, despite our differences, we share a common search for meaning and purpose. Finally, when reflecting on the cultural and religious context of the story of Noah, I realize that he is not just a historical character, but an icon of hope and faith. His lessons apply to all of us, regardless of our beliefs or origins. The narrative of Noah continues to inspire us, showing that, even in the face of adversity, faith and resilience can guide us toward a better future. It is an invitation for all of us, in our unique contexts, to find strength in the stories that connect us and inspire us to act for a fairer and more compassionate world. And so, As we contemplate the story of Noah, we are led to reflect on the profound lessons that echo to this day. The ark, with its imposing structure, reminds us that amidst chaos, there is always a refuge. Are we building our own arks to protect ourselves from life's storms? Noah not only saved his family and the animals, he taught us the importance of faith and perseverance.